Hey everyone, today we'll talk about how our core talents can help us innovate better. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, Innovation and Value Creation Expert, and I'll be your host. And today with me I have Jacco Stolker. Hi, Jacco.
Hi,
Great to see you here. Jacco
thank
is
you for the invitation.
Sure. Jacco is a CoreTalents analyst in Talentizer. And we're going to have a really interesting discussion today because I talked to him in the past and I know it's going to be interesting. And we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And you're much invited to join the discussion and ask questions. We would love to hear what you think. So now we can start. Most leaders are not satisfied with their innovation results. How could companies innovate better while using the talents of their people?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think leaders should understand that successful innovation depends on at least four different factors. And one of these factors, this aspect, is of course methods and using design thinking or lean startup. And these two methods they have in common is you get out of the building and you satisfy customer needs. You try to get into the mind of the customer. So this human aspect is very important in innovation. That's what you write in your book as well. It's very clearly visible in your book as well. But there is another side. There's another human side, and that's the human side within the organization. And in 2018, I did a small research about the influences on innovation. And I concluded that a lot of the success is the human aspect within the organization. For instance, leadership. So what kind of leaders, what kind of innovation leaders do we have within the organizations? And what are their talents? What is their mindset? Another part is culture, because the culture is also human. And with the right people in the wrong culture, if there is, for instance, no psychological safety, if people are scared to ask questions, if people are scared to come up with new ideas, then innovation is doomed to fail. Another thing is of course, the human characteristics or the talents. So it's leadership, culture, and the characteristics of people themselves, plus the methods that play a very important role within innovation. Of course, we can discuss that, we can take some other aspects that are very important, but the human aspect is not only outside the organization, it's inside the organization as well, and it's a very important success factor.
Yeah, of
So
course.
my
It's really
message is,
important.
if you want to be successful with innovation, focus also on the people within the organization, the culture and the leadership.
Yeah, I totally agree that the human factor is really, really important. And you're a talent analyst. Could you just explain what's your work and why it's so important to understand our talents?
Yeah, but so I work as a talent analyst, and basically it's always based on individual talks. So our core talent analysis gives a clear view of people's of a person's characteristics, personality, potential, so what can be developed, and intrinsic motivation, what gives people energy, what make people happy. And the result is a list of 23 different core talents. And when we provide feedback, we combine this 23 different core talents. So we never look at them in an isolated way. So we combine, for instance, the three forms of creativity in the beginning, or the social core talents, etc. So we combine them and we provide feedback. So the basics, what we're doing is listening and having the discussion with people, but related to a very specific time in their life, because it's about what you like to do as a child, between 4 and 12 years. And that sounds very strange for some
Yeah.
people, because
Yeah.
quite often I discussed it with managers.
Yeah.
Why? Play like a child? What did I
Yeah.
like as a child? Come on. Yes, it makes who you are now, what gives you energy, what is your potential. And it's quite surprising
Yeah.
for many people. It's a unique approach.
Yeah, it's unique. So what you're saying is that when you come to leaders and managers and you tell them, let's analyze what has been powerful and what made you happy when you were 4 to 12 years old, they would say, like, what's the context? What I'm doing right now is like grown-ups people. It's not related to what kids do. So what do you tell them when they say it?
Yeah, the proof of the pudding is the eating. That's so people should experience it themselves. That's very important. But when you're a child, you're hard to be steered. I'm not sure how you say it in English, but like if you give a child, for instance, Lego, and it doesn't want to play with Lego, you can buy a lot of boxes of Lego. But if the child wants to play outside with his friends, then yeah, he ain't going to play with Lego. And so are there all different kind of behaviors and plays of children that are the basics of their core talents at this moment. So, because at a certain moment, children get into the educational system, and then something changed because they have
Not for good.
yeah, they don't ask so many questions and sit on your chair. And but some children they want to move and want to play, and so, but they're pure in this time. It's before they grow up and they start getting different interests. But this period of life, so it's about effective behavior of what people did during a long time span. It's from 4 to 12 years. It's 8 years.
Yeah.
So
And you're
so
saying
we
that because we thought more freely and open-mindedly about what we're doing without restrictions, it presents our core talents and core maybe beliefs or what we like more than what we're doing right now.
yeah, because at a certain moment people make decisions based on expectations.
Yeah.
I see many clients. The clients who I see, they all come to us because they have a question or a problem. They expect answers,
Yeah.
and that you see that they sometimes in jobs that do not fit with their core talents, or that they are in kind of organizations that do not match with their needs. Because a talent, we have talents, but related to these core talents are also the human needs, like freedom, being challenged, autonomy. It's different for every person, but this needs. So if you are in doing the right thing in the wrong context, then it feels like you're not at the right place, and then you lose energy, and then you go to work every Monday, and you don't feel satisfied with what you're doing. And
Yeah.
with this insight, what we provide people about their core talents, we show that we give them understanding of their behavior and why they feel the way they feel and why probably sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you're saying because most people, when they think about what they want to study or what they want to do after their studies or what will be their profession, they don't really connect to their own like internal self. They could say, I'm more interested in math. I will go and study computer science and then I'll make more money in high tech. That's the context, but not exactly what does it mean to sit in a cubicle. Right now, it's not in a cubicle, but you sit in any case in front of a screen most of your days, interacting less and doing more analytic work. Is it like exactly what you are talented with and it really makes you happy and energetic? Because you see people working in a very prestigious and people are really would love to be in their location, in their place, and it doesn't make them happy. doesn't make them content.
Yes, and with all effects or all the results, because people get burnout or bore out because they are not happy. They are much more talented and they cannot use their strong core talents, or their small core talents are they're required to use their small core talents, and that doesn't give them energy, and they get into the burnout situation.
Yeah, I love the what you said is like bore out. It's something that you explained last time that we talked, and it really makes sense. Could you say a few words about bore out? Burnout, we know.
Yeah, bore out is like getting sick of boredom. So you're so bored, you're not challenged at all. You're not able to use your strong core talents, because we have strong core talents, half core talents, and small core talents. If you're not able to use your strong core talents, then you get bored. And very often I see these people that you're so talented, and what you're doing, you're just doing the bookkeeping in an organization, but there's much more in you. And we should be clear, you can live your core talents 24 hours a day. So if, for instance, team play with two different core talents related to team play, if you cannot use it in your work, probably you're playing football in the evenings and in the weekends. That's fine as well. So it's not only 100% work related. It's the 24/7 that you have in a week.
Yeah.
How do you use your strong core talents?
Yeah,
And that makes people ill.
yeah, it really makes sense that we have these talents and we want to utilize them. We want to use them in our daily lives, and if we're neglecting them in ourselves, in that we'll be less energetic. And it comes to thinking about human resources. Human resources is so important for companies, and surely if you want to create something new, you need the energy and creativity, and creativity can never come from a very low energy and boredom. So I think that when we're thinking about these like human resources, it's for per person first. That's my resources. Do I use them well? And for a company, to really use the resources well, they need to be aware of all these talents, because when we're doing sessions like innovation sessions, they always take these experts in the specific domain, and there are so many other talented creative people that could really contribute to the discussion, and nobody really thinks about them because they are in support, in bookkeeping, in marketing, wherever, and they could be so valuable for the processes.
Exactly. So this human potential, that the core talents of people are for a big part unknown. We only see what people are doing because we put them in a certain role, and they act according to a certain job description. But people probably have much more inside. So maybe I don't have exact figures about it, but it's very safe to say that maybe 20-30% of the potential of people is not used. So we have something untapped. So they have it and they don't use it within the organization, and they're eager to use it, but nobody asks them, but nobody understands them. And at a certain moment, say, okay, I asked, I tried, they don't listen to me. I came up with a great idea, and then they looked at me and said, who are you? You're somewhere there in the organization. You're not part of. And then
it's not your job.
It's not. Yeah. And if you look at it from a different point of view, like imagine that we have an office building, and let's say 20% of this office building is empty. All these office spaces are empty. If you're the manager, if you're responsible for that, somebody will ask questions about it. Or if you drive us half empty trucks, then everybody say, are you crazy? You should fully use the capacity. And then we speak about human beings, and we're not fully using their capacity. And people want it because their strong core talents give them energy. So
Yeah.
And when they get energy from the work, it's a kind of multiplier. They work harder, their output is higher, and so it's a win-win situation. And exactly creating this win-win situation between individual needs, and within organizations, that's what we try to do.
Yeah, we just talked about the fact that when you can quantify something, it seems like easier to talk about and to measure, and then to like they have numbers. So the numbers is like 20% of the offices, and that's it.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about something that is not so visible and not so easy to understand as like what people need, it's internal, and it's sometimes hard for people to know what their needs are and what their talents are. So they know that they like to play football, but do they connect it to being outside, to being free, to play, to be a team player? What does it mean for them? They say, okay, I love football, and that's it. So it requires for them to think about it differently. And if leaders would understand that they could get more, and it doesn't mean that you have to get 100% from all of your employees all of the time. No, but there are points, especially when you need to change or you need to do something. It requires it's really hard, and you need all the help, and you need everyone aligned on the cause and give whatever they could to this cause. And because innovation is so challenging, it requires the talents of so many people with their energy. And if it's not their talents, they will not be energetic, right? So it's like two things connected. So how could CoreTalents leadership help companies navigate in an unknown market? Like, let's say I understand it, but how does it help me?
Yeah, it's about hiring the right people and using their talents. Like if we speak about unknown markets, like in our experience last year with all this pandemic, things are happening that nobody expected, and that we need the kind of people to get out of it. We need people who are first of all curious. Curiosity is king. I used to say, but I doubt if on within recruitment, if they focus on curiosity and creativity, and we measure that. We have two different core talents that are at least two different core talents that are related to curiosity. So even more. So, but do we check that? And especially creativity. We recognize 3 to 4 different core talents related to creativity. These people are of enormous value for organizations, because we need creative people, because there are no standard solutions in the situation that we are in.
Yeah. And I have to say, as someone who studied, I come from design. So for me, creative is something else. And I think that most people would say, okay, we have these people who are creative. They are like the designers, whoever. And in any context is related to their role. But being creative is not related to what you do. It's the way that you think. It's the way that you operate, right? So people could be creative and do not creative work. They could be a bookkeeper or a finance person, but they're very creative. Yeah. So it's like people need to really understand that it's not related. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And you have people who are not creative in their mind at all, and they're very talented as graphic designers, for example. So it's not the same thing. Yeah. And could you share an example of a characteristic or a talent that is very needed for a leader, for an innovation leader, or someone who's like leading people?
Now, one of them is, I would say, pure transposition empathy. So this the empathy, and the transposition empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Now that's what you do in design thinking, trying to get into the mind of your customer, but also putting yourself in the shoes of your employees. So this empathy, it's very important because that makes people customer oriented. So that's one thing. But like curiosity, absolutely. When we look at some famous leaders like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, if you read about their youth, they all were readers. They read a lot of books. They were just very curious about things happening in their environment and were able to use that characteristic to be successful. It's being visionary as well. That's another core talent related to another core talent, but having a vision. And of course, visionaries without the ability to make it practical, then it's still difficult. Then we have more the religious leaders.
Yeah, you can be very spiritual, but you cannot really create something which is in the world and change the reality if you're just a visionary and not more than that. What we talked till now, I just thought about it, that most of my discussions are more like down to earth. And we're talking about, it's not down to earth, but it's more like soft skills and things which are not that obvious for people. And it seems that the fact that you're empathic is something that you would say, okay, how is it related to being a manager, a CEO? What's the relations? He understands, he know how to make people do what he wants. Like the connection is not that obvious. Maybe if you're empathic, you will be more loved and people would enjoy the fact that you're their leader or their manager or whatever. But it's so much more than that, right? So it's interesting to see. And
what comes in my mind right now, that last Friday I watched an online interview with Thomas van Eekhout. He's a Belgian CEO of Easy, and he said something like the role of the manager or the leader is to help people to develop themselves. So it's not making people do what you want to do. Help people to develop. Support that. Let them grow. Give that. I mean, it's a very successful company in Belgium. And for me, that's so inspiring to hear somebody who's CEO saying these words. We should redefine leadership and management. Like, you shouldn't be the best. There's no need to be the best, to know everything. Surround yourself with the best people who are better than you, who challenge you, who dare to ask questions. So there are so many insights in that field. Now that's the leadership that we need in innovative organizations.
Yeah, of course. And innovation is really handling the unknown. And in addition to that, we are in a very unknown situation. We're in the middle of the COVID crisis. And these the capacity to understand other people, to be empathic, to still be curious, even if it's hard for you or you're stressed, is even more important today. How do you see these core talents being expressed today in this unknown, stressful situation that companies find themselves in?
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Yeah, what I'm saying is
understand you clearly.
That dealing with an unknown is complex. It's always complex because when you're doing something new, you don't know how it will come up. Like it's not doing the same work, the same processes you run till now. Let's say that you're a manufacturer, you'll take $5 million, you place in a new plant, a new manufacturing facility. It will give you this and this revenue for this and this year. So that exactly. But when want to do something new that you're not used to, for example, digital transformation and doing a new product or trying to reach new kind of domain, it's an unknown. And you add to it the fact that all the unknown in the world. So what would be for you as a person, be the talents that will help you with all these unknowns that you need to face right now in your work.
Yeah, like I said before, curiosity, an open mind,
Open
being
mind.
able to look at things from a different perspective, your limitless fantasy. It's related to a core talent. That kind of thing. Being open for feedback, and also that we spoke about soft, but something that's probably also a little bit soft is like we have three different forms of intelligence. That's not related to core talents, but we use to solve problems and to find solutions in our head, rational. But there are two other forms of intelligence, like heart and gut. And sometimes when problems exist, we get into the solution mode. At least that's valid for me. I love to solve problems until a certain moment that I realize that probably there is a message. What? Maybe I'm just keep doing the things that are not for me. That I should leave this market. I should stop with this kind of people. I should go into another direction. And that's why I became a core talent analyst. I had a completely different job before.
What have you done before that?
I spent the first 18 years of my 18 years of my career was in the army. So
wow, that's a gap.
Different. But I learned there a lot of valuable things. But at a certain moment, I left there with a Boreout because I went from armored reconnaissance with tanks to Army Pay Corps with bookkeeping and a desk and no challenges at all. And there I experienced what a Boreout was. I didn't know that it was a Boreout. So that instead of fighting and solving the problem and continue, I decided to leave. Although from the career point of view, it went very well. So it's not using your mind, it's also listening to your heart and your gut feeling. And that's something, it's very important for leaders who are involved in innovation.
Yeah.
You don't find it in the management books.
No, you don't find it. You don't find it at all. At first, I find it very inspiring that I didn't know that was your past, and I would not have imagined, because it seems to me so contradictory to what we're talking about in a sense. I don't know if you see it as contradictory, but this is how I see it. Israel, it's mandatory to go to the army. So we all went to the army, and at least in the Israeli army, the soft skills is not the main issue at all. And being open-minded is not the most desired thing in a soldier, at least when you're a very young soldier. And I'm sure that I see many people in my age thinking like, I got to this, I'm a manager right now, I have a good salary. I'm so like, it's not the most interesting thing, but it's okay. I like going to this company. I have friends, and yeah, it's not challenging. So what do I care? And it seems that the price that they're it's like an unknown price to pay when you decide that, because it's like the salary is obvious. These are numbers. So you see that. And the bore out situation and the fact that you are less energetic, you come home and then you just binge on Netflix, and then another day went. And it seems that you need to really know yourself to get to a point and say, okay, I've been successful here, and that's just fine. And I'm not afraid of doing any change, because I trust myself and I trust my talents, and I'll be okay even if I don't have this degree of like the title. In the army, it's really obvious because you have all the signs of who you are, right? You cannot really not understand who is in front of you with all the signs on their uniform.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally see that. So, what would be the biggest obstacle for innovation if we see it from the core talents part?
The obstacle to innovation. Yeah. Let me say that if you look for the obstacle outside, and that's my personal experience, you're looking at the wrong point. Look at the obstacle inside. First of all, inside yourself. Like, who am I as a leader? Who am I as an innovation manager? Am I able to change perspective, to unlearn, to listen to other people? The thing is, because you cannot change the environment. It's a fact. It's unpredictable. It's very hard to change it. Change what you can, where you have influence on, in your circle of influence. That's very important. So, and that's one of the things that I personally learned, that in the fruitless attempts that I made to go into certain directions, I realized that probably I'm the biggest obstacle for my own growth. And it's the same for within the company. See, what within the company is holding you back, or that does prevent growth and innovation. And that can be something like culture. That plays a very important role.
Yeah.
Things like that. So that's my personal experience. And
I like that you mentioned that you think about what you need to unlearn, because most people think, what should I learn? What should I add? And not what to unlearn. But in fact, if you want to change, you need to unlearn some kind of processes and some kind of way of thinking that you're accustomed to in order to think differently. And I love the fact that you mentioned unlearn instead of learning, which is most people think that they're just aggregating information and they get smarter because they know more. And sometimes we need to, when we want to really change ourselves and what we are doing and the processes and the culture surrounding us, we need to unlearn some kind of what is so obvious for us. As organizations, there are many obvious things learned, which is the culture and the way the company thinks and the way the company operates and the way that the board and the C-level and the management and the employees under that are operating, which is really interesting. So what would be your number one tip for innovation leaders?
One of the number one tips, that can only be one, but it's
yeah, you can have two.
Contribute to the success of your people. Really, that it's only about your own success. If it's just a short-term thing, sooner or later, it will lose its impact. But if you contribute to the success of other people, of the people within your organization, being able to share successes, that's for me number one.
Yeah,
it helps. I guarantee you. And maybe 1B, surround yourself with people who dare to ask critical questions, who challenge you. And that's difficult for everybody, at least it's for me. If somebody completely disagrees with me, that is, oh, wow. But if you find the people who dare to ask the challenging questions, and dare to doubt the things you're doing, at the end you get better.
Yeah, that's really important, especially when we're talking about change. Like these people who are doing the change, sometimes they are called rebels, because they're like inside what you're doing, they're thinking so differently and they're doing things so differently, and without being some kind of a rebel, you will never be an entrepreneur. You will never do it, because if you really want to change, you need to think differently, and you need to disagree, and you need to have the energy to disagree and to challenge the status quo. And I think it's really so important. It's really, really so important. Although, like, for you as a person, as a manager, it's like sometimes much easier just to have people say yes and then agree with you.
Yeah,
it's
but
it's really
at short term, that's very nice. If everybody gives you an applause and agree with you, if you surround yourself with this kind of people, yeah, that's
you,
at the end
you
you pay the bill. I'm
yeah,
sure
you
about
will
it.
not get far. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. So where could people find you and hear more about what you're doing and contact you, Jacco?
They can contact me by LinkedIn, for instance, and I already got some invitations to connect. And also, if you disagree, especially when you disagree with me, please send me a message. I really want to have this discussion. So you can challenge me as well. So send me a message. Find me on LinkedIn. Our company website is talentizer.eu. It's in Dutch, but Google translates everything. So, but let's get in touch and uh, provide me with new insights. I'm
Sure.
curious.
Me too. I'm so curious to see what comes up from this discussion. It makes me feel that I need to go, and you could analyze my talents too, and I'll come to you back and ask you questions about it. And thank you very much for your time. It's been very insightful and interesting, and a change for me, what I usually hear and talk about. So I thank you for your, we have a saying in Hebrew, attention. So attention in Hebrew is where you place your heart. That's
Hmm.
attention. So I place my heart there, so my attention is there. So I thank you for placing your heart with me and giving me your attention at that time. So thank you very much.
With
Thanks.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for inviting me and your
sure.
questions and listening to me.
Sure. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. I'm so happy that you're here. You're welcome to visit invincibleinnovation.com, and I'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.